me feeling like I'm academics.
We're saying that it was OTF Jam. He's a snitch. He's a cooperant, right? And I was saying, y'all gotta chill. Now, apparently, it looks like it looks like. Give me a second. Okay, so it looks like I'm getting more and more of a clearer message as I watch this Durk trial, or this case kind of continue to trial. Trial is still tentatively scheduled for January. I think it'll be pushed back again. If you don't, I think it's going to be within the year of 2026 that the trial goes down, but I think it's going to be later in the year. It was supposed to be in October, but then it got pushed back from October to January. I think it might be in February right now, but they're going to move it back again, if you ask me. Now, the reason why I'm reporting this is that there was a joint motion put forth to the court, and this was a joint motion with not only defendant Durk Banks, which is obviously Lil Durk, but it had Didi, which is DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, David Brian Lindsay, not too sure what his name is, Asa Houston, and their respective counsels filed what's called a motion to disqualify and dismiss the indictment. So they're still fighting the validity of the indictment. They're still fighting how the indictment was even presented to the grand jury and how the evidence process actually came about to get this indictment. And they believe that this should be disqualified. Now, number one, this is a long shot. I don't think it's going to happen at all. So I do think this indictment will stand. But why this is important is that we're now seeing what I believe is going to be the course of action for Durk's case. The people in this case, or the defendants, they're moving cohesively, right? They're all going to be kind of Brian Steele of this case is going to be Drew Finland. All right? Now, the issue here is there is one person that's not on here, and it's OTF Vonnie. And he's not involved in these mutual joint filings, which is very suspect, because you would imagine if all the defendants start going along with procedural, even if these things get denied, it's procedural, right? Hey, we're going to file for this, motion for this. It kind of tells me that Vonnie might be, and I want to be very careful with making any accusations of people, because again, these are their lives. And by the way, I do care about, a lot of these people involved in these situations. But it kind of looks like maybe Vonnie might be working with them people. So I'm going to be honest. It kind of looks like it. I don't want to make that accusation, but it does look odd that he is noticeably absent, not only in times when people are showing up to court, but in joint motions that all the defendants are in line and in, they're hand in hand saying, we're filing these motions. It kind of suggests that maybe he's turned for the government, and maybe he's cooking up a 5K1 letter that would subsequently be used. And here's the thing. We wouldn't know that, and this is how it would work if this is the case. He would have went to court by himself, just like how 6ix9ine went, pled guilty. So he would plead guilty for murder for hire, right? Because that's what he's charged with. He would plead guilty for that and all the underlying charges, and then he would enlist in cooperation in hopes of getting this 5K1 letter that at sentencing, because the sentence for murder for hire is life. So you're essentially pleading, and by the way, you can't, this is why federal court is so ironclad. You already pled guilty. There is no downward departure from mandatory minimum of life imprisonment unless you cooperate. Okay? So he would have to cooperate, but it would be kept hidden. It would be kept hidden. Give me 1 second. The cooperation would be kept hidden until it's unsealed. So we wouldn't get to know about any cooperation from him until right before trial, when that would be unsealed, and we'd probably figure out who co-conspirator 4 is as well. Remember, co-conspirator 4. No, not 4. I'm sorry. 4 is the one who gave the drop. That's who they thought was the Brick Baby-esque figure, like the Rolling 60 Crip that gave the drop on Lil Pob. Co-conspirator 2 is a shooter, but he's not that close to Durk. He's one of the guys who allegedly got recruited by Didi. So he's definitely not involved. He already pled guilty to murder. To murder and murder for hire, right? His shit is sealed. So we'll know who that is, and we'll know when that is right before trial. They're going to unseal that. But Vonnie, if Vonnie took a deal or he's working, quote unquote, he would have pled guilty. And the reason why I'm even toying around with that assumption is that once he stops filing all the regular shit, is because his case is already done. You get what I'm saying? His case is already set in stone, so he needs not file any of these pre-trial just motions, which is like, these are regular. So I'm hoping Vonnie isn't a cooperant. It would also be wicked if he was, because he's the one who is alleged and accused of buying the gloves, buying the masks, and supposedly giving these items to the guys who eventually did the murder. So if he was that much involved, you would hope that that person wouldn't be telling, right? It's not like some innocent guy who just got caught up in some shit, right? Like, for example, if the person who booked the flights on the credit card, which I think they're cooperating too, when they get pressed by the cops and they're like, yo, no one told me I'm booking flights for a murder. I never agreed to that. I booked flights for Durk and his people. If that person cooperated, as long as they're not a street person, I would imagine, you can't say anything about that. They ain't know nothing. Like, they're like, I didn't sign up to book flights for murders. Right? So you would understand that person cooperating. But if the person who's buying the gloves, the masks, and things of that sort, and who's also flying from Florida to California on the private jet with Durk, you would think that person is involved to some extent. Like, all right, you're involved. So if that person tells, number one, I think it'll be a long day and a hard time for Durk to beat this. If we're thinking that the shooter, I've kind of summed up this case. I don't think the shooter, which is co-conspirator 2, I keep saying 4, 2. They don't know Durk that well. These were these out-of-town shooters, primarily, that Didi got. So it's not Durk's guys. I would be shocked if they had much communication with Durk, or that Durk would even trust these guys. Let's say this happened, that Durk would trust these guys to say, yo, I'm going to pay you to kill somebody. You wouldn't, somebody bring, like, not necessarily a stranger, but it's not one of your guys. You start talking different. I would be surprised if Durk would be that loose with his lips, to have anything incriminating. Maybe a text message saying, yo, I'm going to pay you for clapping that nigga, or, yo, you got to come do this. You got to go kill this guy. Now, I don't think none of that exists. And we haven't heard about anything like that from the prosecutors. So I believe if the feds needed a better snitch for Durk, and the best quote unquote snitch they could have would be the person who was next to him as he flew on that plane, the person who got the items that was used, and their excuse could be, I didn't really want to do it. Durk told me go get the gloves and go get the masks and go get this. So maybe that's what it is, but I'd still be surprised. But I'm not going to lie. As of now, if I'm not seeing Vonnie file anything, like I'm looking at these things, yeah, this is Asa Houston. Like there's a lot of, you know. Yeah. Let me see. So I said the gloves and masks could be used for the videos. Sure. His name is Kevon Grand. Okay. Sure. Hey, listen. You don't got to convince me. You don't have to convince me. You're going to have to convince jurors. But if somebody hears about a murder, if on that video where they're shooting it at the gas station, if those guys has on gloves, it's gonna be assumed that the gloves that you bought at that store that day was probably for the murder and not for a music video. Yeah. Kevon Grant's name is noticeably missing from a lot of this. Joint objections. See, we're seeing a bunch of joint charges and a joint like objections and thing like that. And again, we see Durk's lawyers, we see Dee Dee's lawyers, and then these other two. Remember, this plot was carried out. There's co-conspirator 2, which is a shooter. He's missing, but he's clearly telling. And then now Vonnie is noticeably absent. By the way, I had read that Vonnie didn't show up to court at the last hearing. So it's kind of looking no, that's from a year ago. By the way, Durk been locked up over a year, man. Yeah, haven't seen Vonnie's name in the court paper for long. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't seen it. And apparently he didn't show up to court at one of those like pretrial like conferences where everybody got brought to court. He didn't show up. So, I don't know, man. I think you got to look at it like this. Well, for me, I look at it like this was the get back for the murder of King Von, right? King Von's manager and right-hand man was Vonnie. I would think if anybody, maybe even more than Durk, that wanted to get that get back, I would think it would be for Vonnie. That was your lifeline. That was your meal ticket. You're his manager. You're running around getting bread with Von. Von gets killed. Durk kind of brings you back into the fold with some OTF shit. I could see like there's you have some type of incentive to slide, right? But I could imagine once you get locked up, you realize this is no fucking joke. Murder for hire is a mandatory life sentence. If the feds show you something compelling that you think that you about to go to jail forever, and then they say, well, but we need you though. And if you help us, we're going to recommend 10 years, 15 years. I think probably 10, 15. Yeah. Somebody died, yeah, 15. maybe that person says, hey, do I really want to take my chances in court? Let me make sure I could get up out of this bitch one day. But yeah, we have not seen OT of Vonnie in a while. Here we go.
You want to support me? That being said, let's say the women, the kids, the elderly, the neutrons, and the civilian prosecutors. But guess who's missing? OTL Vonnie, man. We talking about that, and we talking about the woman who was walking home with her kids and was attacked by some kids, man. They evil. Make sure you smash that like button so this video get around. If you got Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, Twitch, make sure y'all smash that like button and that hype button. All right, y'all, so we talking about Lil Durk's story first. It is 11:18, and they supposed to have a motion with all the defendants present and the prosecution, and they going over whether the judge, they talking about some things they talking about is whether the judge was supposed to recuse herself. But the government clapped back on the motion. I reported about it last night on my video, and they said that they don't have to recuse her because they already basically rolled down on the fans, some kids in the suburbs. So they knew we didn't have to tell y'all because we know y'all didn't have no involvement. That's what the Fed's saying. But they supposed to have a court motion, and everybody is on that motion, even Lindsay, which is Flocka. Flocka joined, Durk now motion. Only one that ain't got no motions is OTF Vonnie. Why is it bad that OTF Vonnie ain't got no motion put in to join with Durk? Because OTF Vonnie is being accused of being on a plane with Durk. He's accused of buying the weapons, buying the cars, paying for the killer's hotel room. That's what they saying OTL Vonnie did. And
yeah, Vonnie is it's interesting. You could tell how, investigators choose who they want to cooperate. They find the person with the most the least perceived culpability, but the person who's the biggest glue, right? It would be either the two people they needed to flip was Didi and Vonnie, right? The shooters were going to either tell or not tell, right? And the shooters were going to just probably, it's icing on the cake because the shooters, they're just going to confirm, I did do the murder. And yes, I only did it because I was promised payment. And yes, I got paid. So that confirms the charge, the murder for hire, right? But murder for hire is conspiracy. And proving conspiracy is really hard, especially when you don't have somebody within the conspiracy to break it down. So that's why who do you need? You're not going to get Durk to tell, right? Because they want Durk. Durk is the least connected person. You need the person who is the connecting tissue between all of the pieces, whether it's the shooters, the nigga who gave the drop over there, the credit card man who's booking the flights, Durk himself, and Vonnie is the perfect person. Now, I've said this before. I've thought that this case is beatable. And why did I say it was beatable? Because they don't have any smoking gun. And yes, could the evidence mount up where if people are testifying against Durk, and obviously we're thinking about co-conspirator 4, and I don't know, maybe they throw on the stand the person who booked the flights. Yeah, it could look bad when the government, because it's defense, is giving their narrative of what happened. But as long as it's not somebody like Vonnie. Now, if it's somebody like Vonnie, I was at a 45-50%. I thought it was a 50-50 before. If Vonnie's cooperating, I give it a 10% that Durk is successful in getting out. And here's the thing, too. And I'll say this lastly and I'll move on. If I'm Durk, I have to look at two strategies. There's two strategies at play. The first strategy, obviously, we're playing defense because this is in the court of law. The burden of the proof is on the prosecutor, right? You are presumed innocent until proven guilty. If I'm Durk, I play two strategies. The first strategy is going to be this. Number one, we ain't do it, right? We ain't do it. All these joint motions is to basically all say, we ain't do it, right? Like you can tell there's some cohesion with Durk and the lawyers for the other guys, which means they're going with one strategy. And the only strategy that would help all of them is we didn't do it collectively. Now, if that strategy starts to break down, the next strategy is going to be the strategy and this is a solo Durk strategy. How y'all gonna say I'm the one who orchestrated this murder? It's Vonnie that did it. Now, I'm not saying it's telling, but basically, if Vonnie's a cooperant and he's breaking all this down, if all he got is to say, yeah, I bought the gloves. Yeah, I bought the hotel. Yeah, I bought the flights. I did everything. But Durk told me to do it. Durk has the defense of saying, no, this guy's caught red-handed, and that's why he's trying to blame it on me. Oh, I promised to pay niggas? I ain't promised to pay nobody nothing. This guy dealt with money too. So that's the Durk solo defense. But at that point, you're giving up on admitting that a conspiracy happened. The first defense, which all of them are in line with as they're filing these motions jointly, there was no conspiracy to commit murder. We're fighting the conspiracy. Conspiracy requires two or more people to have agreed to the commission of a crime. It requires some planning, some plotting. It requires action, not just talk, action. Like, for example, if you say to someone, yo, we should kill that nigga, and nothing ever gets done, you still have freedom of speech. That's not a conspiracy. It requires action. Action could be overt or, the overt actions are what makes the conspiracy. So if we say, we should kill that nigga over there, and then nothing happens, it's just talk. If we say, we should kill that nigga over there, and you say, bet, I'm going to get the gloves, and you go buy a glove, now buying a glove is not a crime. That's conspiracy. You say, bet, I'm going to go get the stolen car. That's conspiracy. So you have to prove these things, that there's actions taken out. Not only because you know what they're going to come at Durk with. You wanted him dead. Well, everybody wanted these guys dead. Yeah, our friend King Von got killed by their people. Yeah, but that's not a crime. So it's not only maybe Durk wanted them dead. They got to show that Durk took action. Durk made things happen. Now, some of that is in an indictment. Because if Durk is kind of like approving flights, that would be a thing. However, how do you know he was approving flights for that reason? Right? So, conspiracy isn't that easy to prove, but the more you get people to cooperate, they get to corroborate the conspiracy. Now, we were planning that while we were on the private jet. Durk told me. He said, tell me how much the gloves and the mask cost. I'm going to just send you the money on Cash App. I'm not saying that will happen, but what I'm saying, like, these are the things they're hoping that if Vonnie is a cooperator, that he's going to be able to say.
And he flew on the plane twice with Durk, and he stayed at the Airbnb. So for him to be missing, hey, look, this ain't about no judge. That's some minor shit. Judge recusal, they ain't tell you. That's some minor shit, man. The real thing is who gonna nail Durk. And it don't matter what y'all say. Oh, you want Durk to go down? No, I don't. Vonnie gonna take him down. Jam gonna take him down. and arrested his co-conspirators. And the civilian who they made book the flights, told to book the flights, but then tell them they was killing somebody, he gonna tell on them. So you ain't gotta worry about me. I'm just a reporter, a blogger, and whether Durk come home tonight, I'm still gonna report about it, and you still gonna listen to it. So, hey, that's what I got on it though. But OTL Vonnie is the only one that's not in the courtroom. Y'all get in the comments and let me know.
Yeah, he's not in the courtroom. Again, I think Durk is playing this well, but I think the feds are also playing 4D chess. So if you ask me, as we just looked at this docket right here, so remember, let me just kind of break this down. So this is filed, right? Like, this is filed from Durk's lawyers. So Durk's lawyer, so you could tell what's going on. Obviously, you're not supposed to do this, but come on, you know what type of time it is. Durk paying for everybody's shit. Yo, everybody shut the fuck up. Let my lawyer cook. Yo, we'll give you a lawyer, but your lawyer got to fold up under my lawyer. We all got to have the same, we all got to say the same thing, right? This is why Drew Finland is cooking up these motions. And by the way, this is his lawyer too, Jonathan Brayman, and also Christy O'Connor. Those are the attorneys. They just put joint and then put everybody else's signature. So it's like they do all the homework, and it's like a group project, and everybody just put their name at the top, right? So you don't see this person and this person on there. Durk controlling that situation. That's good for Durk, because what you say goes, and you get to put the narrative, and then as it gets closer to this shit, you get to have some cohesiveness. Now, the problem is Vonnie hopped out the whip. Vonnie has hopped out the whip. Okay? And since Vonnie's hopped out the whip, it kind of make it look a little sticky. Okay? It makes it look a little sticky. Because now you can't control what's going on with him. Yeah. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Why OTL Vonnie ain't going to be in the courtroom? Why is he ain't on the motion? Because everybody is supposed to be in court. They on that motion, and they on the docket to be in court.
That's another thing, too. When they're all filing joint shit, see, Durk got to be monitoring shit. Like, they all got to show up to court together. Now, anytime somebody stops showing up to court, that's a problem. Anytime somebody's lawyer go off script, that's a problem. So Durk is trying to control the situation the best he can, but I think the feds got to Vonnie already. I think they were trying to break Vonnie and Didi. But I think they realized Didi wasn't going to break when Didi agreed with the motion. No, Didi wanted to file a motion to sever his case. And remember, without Didi, you can't connect Durk to the shooter. So the connection goes like this, and they're going to have to prove this all in court. Durk, oh man, I feel like, remember when Gunna came out and Gunna had that fucking, that was a wild pick. Remember when Gunna was sitting, before he dropped any music, he had the fucking investigation board in a room? That's what we need right now. That's what we need. Hold on. Let me draw this out for y'all, though. So remember, this is conspiracy. This is what's going to have to happen, right? So they got Durk at the top. Durk. My handwriting is bad. Fuck that. Let me just type it. Where's the, okay. So you got Durk here. Okay, cool. So you got Durk here, right? Now, the people who are cooked, I believe, are the shooters. So, shooters. Nah, I'm not even doing this. Fuck it. I think this is verbally explained to you. My bad. Sorry, y'all. Chat. All you need to know is this, man. The shooters are cooked because one of the shooters is telling. How are the shooters cooked? The shooters, the shooter that's telling is going to be able to place the other shooters in the car, place them somewhere before, after, during the crime. So shooters are cooked. Shooters are cooked. 3 shooters. They're cooked. Now, keep in mind they said it was 2 cars. They said one car actually had Vonnie in it. Vonnie and Dee Dee were supposedly in a car. That cooks Dee Dee, right? Well, let me just stick with the shooters. So co-conspirator 2, which is a shooter, he cooks the other shooters, right? But cooking the shooters don't cook Durk. Yeah, y'all niggas just murdered somebody. They ain't got nothing to do with me. Remember, it's murder for hire. All right, cool. So shooters are cooked. How do you connect it? Because they got co-conspirator 2 from the indictment was dropped. How do you connect it to Durk? Well, there's 2 people, Dee Dee and Vonnie. Okay, you need Dee Dee. Why? Dee Dee's the nigga who got the shooter. Here's how they probably went to Dee Dee. Yo, Dee Dee, we got one of the shooters. The shooter said you the one who called him up for the hit. Yo, we got you hook, line, and sinker. Here's the thing, though. Because Dee Dee doesn't fit, like, he couldn't be charged with, he couldn't be the top guy in the murder for hire conspiracy. He's not the one who got the money to pay him. It's not his plot. He looks like he's the find the niggas guy. Like, yo, you know a guy? Yeah, he's that guy. You know a guy? Yeah, he's that guy. So he's a middleman. So this is why, they probably try to press him, but good thing I think Durk got him a lawyer. His lawyer gonna be like, oh, that's bullshit. No, we can fight that in court. You don't gotta fold. We ain't folding. So Dee Dee doesn't fold. But I would imagine they would try to threaten him to say, you know what? We're gonna hang this all on you unless you help us get Durk. So Dee Dee looked like he's standing solid. The next person they go to is Vonnie. Because Dee Dee, if I guess this is why I was trying to draw it. Remember, Durk's at the top, shooters at the bottom. The 2 middlemen are Dee Dee and Vonnie. Vonnie is up here with Durk because he's the connection to Durk. Vonnie connects to Durk. Dee Dee connects to the shooters. Now, they needed one of those guys. They got Vonnie, so they're looking at this situation to get Durk from the top. They're staying at the top of the pyramid. So they're going to need Vonnie to say, yeah, Durk was telling me, or Durk had me track Quando's location as he was going from city to city. We were supposed to go to L.A., but Durk told me, let's go a couple days earlier before them bitch-ass niggas leave that we could go kill them. So, again, if that's the Vonnie angle, I think it's going to be treacherous. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But, again, I don't want to completely commit to this idea that he's a cooperator until we actually know, but it doesn't look good. And if I'm a betting man. If I had to bet, I would say more than likely it seems like he is at this point, though, which is kind of sad. All right. Okay. Hey, give me another topic, y'all. Somebody said, I'm glad to be Glow Gang, this OTF. Yo, chat,